Hello? So, guys. All right. Feel free to ask some questions.
Hey, Jay, I have a question.
There it is. What's up, buddy?
Well, hopefully this isn't too personal, but you've alluded to it a number of times. For a guy like me who's trying to get into this industry,
Uh-huh.
it does feel like it's going to take forever, although you've been good about telling us, just keep working and it won't take forever. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about how you got started and some of the challenges you faced, just so, I don't know, maybe I can get a sense of, what your journey was like.
Yeah. So, I basically just painted a lot. Okay. And there's a lot of things that happened. All right. And I can definitely give you kind of the cliff notes of my journey. I went to school. I dropped out. Well, let's start before that. I was living out of my car almost after leaving my job as a plumber. And then I went to school trying to get a career. And then I dropped out of school, realizing the school's a bunch of trash. Um, Hold on, I'm just trying to think about what I want to do instead. I dropped out of school, realizing I wasn't going to get the education I wanted. Yeah, and then I got a job doing freelance for Hasbro, and then I got a job at a studio, worked there for about a year until I got laid off. And then after that, I went and started started doing freelance. And then I got an art test for Sony, then worked there for about a year and a half until my daughter was born. And I realized it was too long of a drive for me to do. And I love my little girl, so I wanted to be closer. So then I left that job to work for a smaller studio. And then that studio, I saw the fallout of that. And so then I left that job because I saw very similar ties of my first job that I had. I even warned them, and they didn't pay attention, so I just left. And then I started working in films, and then I started to do um, more freelance, but then I got back into working for studio, which was Blizzard at this time, and I was starting to realize that although I was making more money and I was having more advances in my career, that I wasn't necessarily happy. And then I thought of like I needed to find a way to pay for a lot of finances too, because I have a big family, a lot of medical bills and expenses. Our bills are very expensive, and I live in a very very rich community, and so I needed to adapt. So then I started teaching, doing Gumroad videos. Before all that, I started doing teaching here and there. Um, I did like classes for schoolism, for instance. I didn't do a good job though. I didn't. I kind of failed at that towards the end. No hard feelings though between me and uh, Bobby Chu, who owns that school. But I was doing a poor job. And then I did other schools, and schools kicked me out because I was always telling people that school's not necessary. And so I don't think people like that. And I worked for Red Engine, which was not a school like any other, but then it taught me a lot about working with people on a personal level. All this was going on in between all these other things. Um, and then I eventually I eventually worked at Blizzard, and I got started doing my Gumroad videos, as you probably already know. And then I started doing my own mentorship, and I started teaching, and then all that stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. And then I started doing my own mentorship. I started trying to create a business out of this, and I did. And then I decided to stop doing that. I also was like a partner in Learn Square, but then I stopped doing that for alternative reasons. But then I just decided to just focus only on my school and a little bit of freelance here and there. I ended up doing, I ended up taking this art directing job part time recently, and like before my surgery, it was like in early October. Anyway, So yeah, basically I just do freelance and teach now. And I work like 30-hour weeks. So I like, and I make like almost twice as much money as I was when I was working full time. It's crazy. And it's because I stayed focused. Anywho, but I still have struggles, right? There's still things that are still like in the way of pure nirvana, sure, right? But I've already accepted that this is how life is. Like art is easy, life is hard.
Right.
Okay, and so the moral of the story, I'm going to wrap around this philosophy. Now, a lot of people imagine that you have an egg and then a chicken, right? All of a sudden, the egg hatches, and what you have is a little chick coming out of the egg, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they think that's a very pivotal moment in the development of the little chicken's life, right? But here's the thing. First, the egg needed to be an embryo, and then the embryo grew large enough over time and growing the yolk of the egg and the white of the egg until the egg also grows its own shell and it hardens, and that shell hardens into the eggshell until that itself is then laid by the chicken, by the hen, and then over time the yolk and embryo becomes an eye, two eyes, a beak, the heart, the lungs, the muscles, the veins, the brain, etc. Right?
Right.
And then eventually, you have the feet and the wings and all that stuff, and then it cracks out of the egg, and it's a little chick. But it doesn't stop there. It keeps growing and growing and growing. It gets larger. It starts getting larger feathers. It starts molting. It starts doing, etc., until it lays its own eggs. What's the point of it? What am I trying to make? Is that the cracking of the egg to where you first see the chick was just one step out of many that makes a chicken. You understand?
Yeah.
And to focus in on the chick hatching from the egg is misguided. Just like, um, asking me a question, which was like, what were your struggles? There was not just one. And there was not just a significant moment in my life where everything changed. Just like there wasn't, you know, a significant relevance to the hatching of the chicken in the philosophy I just told you. You understand?
Right.
So it's like everything that led up to this point is why I'm the way I am. You understand?
Yeah.
And to get like basically to get distracted by these types of notions is what I'm trying to have you avoid. That's all.
Right.
Because this is again just one moment in your life that you just happen to be going through. And then 10 years from now, when you're the most accomplished character concept artist in the industry, you're going to look back at this moment no different like than the 10 years before that. You understand?
Right.
You're just gonna be like, yes, that was a pivotal moment, but it wasn't like that changed everything. I still had to fucking paint every day for the next 10 years,
Yeah.
And so it's what I'm trying to do is enlighten you to this idea that you can get distracted with this type of mentality, like, and I'm trying to say don't be. Stay focused on the things you really can control, which is uh, your growth as an artist. That's like
No, that's
literally
good
the
advice.
only thing you can do, right? There's nothing else you can control. Like, I'm not a religious person, but I love the phrase, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much truth to that, man. If I would have, like, I always tell students this, like, if I would have known, like, okay, 32-year-old Anthony Jones goes back in time and talks to his 22-year-old version, just 10 years, right? No, let's go 20 years, like the 12-year-old version of me, and I would say, look, bro, you're going to be an accomplished artist in the movie and video game industry. You're going to teach people how to do it too. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. I'd be like, what in the world are you talking about, dude? Like, I am going to be a firefighter, bro. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And then if I go 10 years into the future and talk to the 22-year-old version of myself and say the same thing, he's like, what are you talking about, bro? We're going to be a rock star. We're going to be playing in Madison Square Garden. We're going to be playing pop punk music, original pop punk music, like Blink-182. We're not even artists, dude. What are you even talking about? Like, how is that possible? Artists, you have to be born an artist to be able to be an artist, dude. You're fucking stupid. Like, unless they have like some pills in the future, where like, do you take some pills or something? Do you do drugs? Like, no, I don't really. Oh, well then get the fuck out of my face, future me. Just like the 42-year-old version of myself, the 10 years from now, he comes back to today. Like he just walks into the room right now, right? And he says to me, "Hey, yo, you're, you're going to be the president of Guatemala." And I'm like, "What? What in the world?" He's like, "Trust me. You know how you started getting into politics recently? Well, let me just tell you, man. You get real deep. Who knows, man? You don't know." And I've decided to stop thinking about that, right? Like keep my goals relatively focused and listen to my intuition, right?
Right.
And the
And
reason
like you
why,
said, control only what you can control.
yeah, and like for instance, I'm really into politics right now. So what can I control? Well, I can't necessarily change the lives of these immigrants who are going through some real shit, and some people don't understand that. But what I can do is bring it up often, make people not forget. I have a huge following, and I've learned that I'm not really trying to convince people who disagree with me to agree with me. That's really challenging and almost impossible at some level, right? In fact, I got like in a huge fight with some guy last night, and I decided like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not even taking my own advice on this. Like, I just made a huge mistake. I apologized to him too because I realized I got out of hand. I didn't say anything or I didn't insult him. I still agree that I still think that he's blind to the truth. But that was like the worst thing I said to him. I didn't say anything else worse. It's just I was very heated. But I realized that the best way, like the only reason what I can control is to hopefully have those people that are already convinced of my argument to be reaffirmed with their argument and start to realize why their intuition was right about this whole goddamn election. Because I think that's the problem. Some people don't have they know like there's something wrong with this whole ban, but they don't know the 100% logistics, just like I didn't. And as I dig deeper, I'm starting to see clearly why it's a problem, why I feel so strongly about it, aside from my own personal experience.
Right.
And that's something that I can control. That's the only thing I can control. I can't control
Yeah.
the actual changing of people's minds. I can't actually control this, but I can control me reading articles, digging deep and deep and going down that very dark and very sad rabbit hole. Okay. You know,
Yeah.
but if I was attached to more of like the atrocities of the world, I would be very depressed every day
Right.
because the world is very fucked up in a lot of spaces. But I like to believe we're on the right side of history still. We're still moving forward. But that's just my beliefs on this whole issue. But the whole point of this whole talk is to kind of make you understand, to think differently about that kind of question, because I think that question is rooted in this idea of like reassurance that it will work out at the end. And I'm trying to say, I don't know. I have no idea what will happen in your future. You might decide to be a ballet dancer. All I'm trying to say is stay committed to what you feel is what you want to do, and do it consistently for a while. Like obviously, don't just drop it. Like, oh, I tried tomorrow. I'm going to change, and then change the next day, and then change the next day. Obviously, try for a little bit. And if you really are committed to this character stuff, then just be patient. It's just going to take some time. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm a little older. I'm afraid of that. That's, again, a very shallow argument. Nobody cares about age. No one's going to be like, oh, wait, how old are you? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. We only hire 18-year-olds and 24-year-olds. So
Yeah.
get the
Not going
hell
to
out.
happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's impossibly. And if it does, like someone like age discriminates against you, then like you don't want to work there anyway. you know,
Right.
I don't care what company that is, right? Yeah, that's a very shitty excuse to not hire somebody, and it doesn't. hold any weight. Because in my experience, I think the older people are, the more wiser they are. And so age actually kind of broods some wisdom. Not always, but at least some, right? I know
There's always
some.
exceptions, right?
Yeah, yeah. Donald Trump. He's like one of the best examples of this. He's like 70, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not wise at all. I even told some of the people I was debating with online on a few occasions, I was like, I'm trying to make the argument that I don't, I understand people's sentiment about their disapproval of the government as it is. Like, there's a lot of things that we could do better. We're one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and yet we're letting millions of Americans go without health care. It's just kind of silly. Uh, and we have millions of people like really poor and really struggling, and yet we have all this money. It's just because a
Mm.
small few, a percentage of like a tenth of a percentage of one of people in America have all the wealth. It's disgusting. And so anyway, getting back on what I'm trying to say is, yeah, like all I'm trying to tell people is Donald Trump isn't going to fix these problems. You got the wrong guy. You hired the wrong guy for the job. That's all I'm trying to tell people. Like, I'm not trying to disagree with their policies or even their sentiments and why they even supported them in the first place. I can see and empathize why they did it. It makes sense. But I'm trying to say, but you got the wrong guy. Bernie was the guy that was going to do that, and everybody kept on calling him a socialist because he wanted universal health care for everybody. It's like, oh, God damn it, we made a huge, terrible mistake. And well, I didn't want to vote for Hillary. And I was like, well, then why did you fight Bernie so hard? And so, yeah, he's just not a qualified guy. In fact, I told some of the people that I debated, I was like, I think you guys are actually smarter. Like, I think you are more qualified and more level-headed and rational than Donald Trump. And that's the problem. Because I don't think that you would think that you're qualified for the job. Like, I don't think I'm qualified. That's why I'm not going to run for president, probably ever. Maybe if we're Guatemala.
Right.
But my point is that no one's going to age discriminate. And getting to Trump, I just can't get it out of my mind. But no one's going to age discriminate against you or any of you. It's just a stupid thing to be worried about. Like, well, I'm kind of getting older. Nah, dude, don't worry. The only thing you need to worry about is try not to die, because people don't hire dead people, at least for
Yeah,
now.
that's the one guarantee, right? That
Yeah,
won't happen.
yeah, for now. I mean, people still give jobs to like Sid Mead and Scott Robertson, and these guys are really old, right? They're not really old, but they're old. They're like in their 50s. Sid Mead is in his 70s, I believe. He's an old guy.
He's 80.
Oh yeah, see, and they still give him jobs. I'm just
So
saying.
there's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, like you have to literally just be dead. you know. I worked with Crash McCreary once, and he's an older dude. He's the guy that designed the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, like one of the original
Right.
designers. That's all I'm trying
No,
to
it's
get at.
helpful, AJ. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
Because one of the things you shared, I think you told Elijah about that slope that we're all trying to climb,
yeah,
and you were talking about that sort of dirt road and journey, and you kind of illustrated some dead ends and here and that, there and everywhere, and that's how you kind of got to where you're at now. And I just wanted to know a little bit more about that journey
yeah.
because I thought
There's
that
just a lot
that
of
was a good illustration.
yeah. There's just a lot of them, and to demonstrate each and every one of them would be too. We would waste too much time in the class. So just trust me that there was a lot of struggle. Okay, and it continues to this day. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I have accepted that the hustle will always be there.
Mm-hmm.
It will
Okay.
never stop. And to think that it will is naive. Okay. I'm going to tell you two stories that hopefully guide you with this, and then I'll take on another question. In fact, actually, do we have any questions before I tell these stories? These stories would be better to end the class with.
I was just gonna ask, like, when you quit your job, did you have anything lined up, or was it just
Nah,
like, okay, no?
I remember sitting in my bed for like 2 hours thinking, like, what the fuck am I going to do? because me and my girlfriend, now wife, my girlfriend at the time, and now my wife, in present time, we were planning on moving in together. And we had this place all lined up, and I was ready to move in with her and all the fun stuff. And then I got laid off. So then I was just like, this is not good, because I've told this beautiful young lady that I was going to move in with her, and now we're going to probably not be able to do that because my boss made some poor choices with who our publisher was, and they pulled the funding on our game, and so we all had to be laid off, right? And so I remember just laying there in my bed for like 2 hours, just thinking like I'm fucked, right? And I was really depressed for like those 2 hours. I was just really like feeling sorry for myself. And then after those 2 hours, it hit me. I was like, well, me being depressed is not going to do shit. Okay. The time of mourning has passed. And so I needed to start doing something. And that's when I decided to make a plan. And I made the plan of like, I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to build a whole new portfolio, because everything I did for that company I didn't like, you know? So I was going to make a new portfolio. I was going to completely just capsize everything and start over and just try again. So I decided to do that. And when I decided to do that, I eventually, really worked really hard. And luckily for me, my boss felt really bad about that. And so he gave us another opportunity. He sent he sent us some freelance gigs from a small studio that he was friends with, to work and try to cover the potential loss, right? And then I just did that for a while. It was enough for us to move in. And then also what I ended up doing was just taking little jobs here and there, like commissions from like DeviantArt, you know? And then eventually what I did was did like so much work that I got recognized, and I got an opportunity to do an art test, and the art test was the art test for Sony Santa Monica. And then that's what started my whole career in the industry. It was just that first job at Sony. And now, looking back, I'm just thinking, man, that was nothing compared to the stuff I'm dealing with, in the future from that, right? But my point is that, yeah, it was just another hurdle, one moment in my life, and I did something, and it worked out. It could have also easily not worked out, but it worked out, which was great. But I remember just sitting there thinking, yeah, if I just do nothing, then it's just only going to get worse, so I had to do something, you know?
Right.
That's why I encourage people, and people like to think that it just gets easier when you get more opportunities. And the reality is, I don't think so. I don't know anybody who's entirely satisfied with everything in their life, you know? And I've noticed that even the most wealthiest people have very sad stories about their wealth, and they complain about it. And people get mad about them complaining about it, but then yet when they get that wealth, they'll start to share the same sentiment because they don't understand. It's easy to look on the outside and looking in and think, well, look, like they don't know. Like I have real struggles. They don't have real struggles. Like they're an actor. What do they know? It's like, yeah, well, why is it that Jim Carrey made a really powerful quote, which was, I wish everybody can accomplish their dreams, so they realize that it's not the answer. Like, why would someone like that say something like that? Maybe he has insight that you should probably listen to. Why was it that Robin Williams was on antidepressants and, in fact, overdosed on them? In fact, a lot of celebrities recently have been dying from antidepressant overdose. You know?
Right.
Why is this? Why is it after the owner of Minecraft after selling it to Microsoft for $2.5 billion. A month later, was on Twitter writing some of the most depressing tweets you'll ever read from somebody at that level. He wrote on one tweet that he was at this $1 million party that is at his $70 million home with celebrities and A-list celebrities and really amazing people, and he was in the bathroom on the toilet and never felt more alone in his life. Right? Like, how is that possible? Like, how is this possible? He should be happy. How is it that people who win the lottery also lose all their money, like in the same year, and go into drugs? A lot of them get super addicted to drugs and fall into extremely bad habits. Not all, but a lot of them. You know, because wealth is the biggest lie. Like, money as the tool for success has been one of the biggest lies that our modern culture has taught us and trained us to believe. And it's something that I try to educate you guys on, because I've had mild success at a very small scale that allowed me to be able to bounce back from it. You know what I mean? It wasn't such a catastrophe of, like, it could have been much worse is what I'm trying to say, right? Like, I could have been like some of these people. And it happened to me at a small enough scale that I can have strong reflection on it. And that's why I encourage you guys to pay attention to this type of stuff, because a lot of times people feel like, oh, once I get this, then my life will be good. My suggestion is, why don't you try to make your life good now?
Right.
What's holding you back today, not what's going to hold you back tomorrow. And a lot of the struggles that I went through could have been avoidable, and some of them were unavoidable, but it doesn't make a difference is what I'm trying to get at. You guys are all going to have your own problems. And when you take my class, what I love to say to my students is, make your own mistakes. Don't make the same as I did. Make new failures. Don't make the same. So trust me on that, right? When I tell you this type of stuff, like, don't just blindly try to get a job again. Like, think thoroughly, like, what is it that you truly want to accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
And are you on the path to accomplish that today? And if the answer is no, then what the fuck are you doing? You can get hit by a car tomorrow,
Right.
This reflection only increased after my surgery, my removal of my tumor. I only increased this reflection. I already started to grow. It only got stronger after I realized the priorities of my life. And so, there's a really sad joke now, but it's a funny joke. It was a funny joke before, but in the context of Robin Williams, it's a very sad joke. I want to tell you guys right now. So there's this guy who goes to see his psychiatrist, and he's having a real hard time. He's really depressed. And he goes to the psychiatrist, and he tries to explain this to him. He's like, listen, and, like, I've been going through some real tough times at work, I see stuff at work that's, like, just freaking heartbreaking, and it just destroys me every freaking day, and I don't know what to do. I feel like everything I try just doesn't work. I just get home and I feel depressed and more depressed every single day. And psychiatrist is like, well, have you tried, medications? He's like, I've tried that. It doesn't work. Have you tried, exercise and diet? He's like, I've tried that. It doesn't work. He's like, have you tried, taking some time off? He's like, yeah, I've tried that. It just, I still think about it even if I'm not there. And then, he's like, well, there's this really unorthodox procedure that I know about that I hear works really well. People really recommend this. And the guy's like, oh, please tell me what it is. I'll try anything. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's really, it's the kind of stuff that you wouldn't expect, but people really say it works. And it sounds silly, but it's basically hiring this guy. He's a clown, and he goes by the name of Bozo the Clown. And he changes people's lives. He makes people really, really happy. And the guy looks at the psychiatrist and says, I am Bozo the Clown. And what's so powerful about this story or this joke in the context of Robin Williams is that Robin Williams was a comedian. He made people very happy, and he was supportive, and he was amongst a lot of foundations and donations to people's lives, right? He was doing a lot of good in this world. And he had some movies that weren't good, right? But he never did a movie where people were like, what are you doing, Robin Williams, you know? And nobody was that critical of him either. You know, no one ever judged his pedigree. You know, everyone I think agrees that Robin Williams is amazing. You know, he's like Will Smith, for instance. Like Will Smith has made a lot of bad movies, but everybody loves Will Smith regardless. You know.
What are you talking about? Wow, though, this is awesome.
All right. Um, and the point is what I'm trying to get at. And Will Smith is also a great example, man. Like he took a lot of hiatus too, right? And um, the point I'm trying to get at is who was making Robin Williams happy? You know, who was on the side of Robin Williams, like being his support? You know, like how would you take the advice of somebody that's super depressed on how not to be depressed? It's a really dangerous conundrum to be in, you know.
Right.
And this is why I always encourage you guys to have a little bit more insight about like what it truly means to be successful in it. And then, like I said, I'll tell you some stories that really help that. Um, there is the story of Keanu Reeves, which is freaking is sad. Do you guys know about Keanu Reeves? He made a lot of movies. Most people know him for his movies. He's
Did his
pretty,
wife die or something?
yeah. Yeah. Some bad stuff happened to him. Reeves, hold on. He was stillborn. So he gave his wife or girlfriend had a stillborn baby. They broke up because of that, and then his girlfriend then gets in a car accident, I believe, and then she dies, right? And then Reeve, I believe he had. Yeah, I don't think he got married. I think it was that he
Yeah, it was
had
his
a
girlfriend or
baby.
something. That's right.
Yeah, he had a baby, and the baby was stillborn, which is tragic, and then that destroyed their relationship. And then shortly after, she gets in a severe car accident, which leaves her dead, right? And she was being treated for depression too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is all happening when Reeves was scheduled begin shooting back-to-back Matrix sequels during the subsequent spouse peace and time to deal with this, according to his friend Brett, guitarist in Reeves' alternative band Dogstar. Yeah, and then I forget what else happened to him. Yeah, he became an internet meme after photos of him seemingly depressed while sitting on a park bench were posted on 4chan. The images were soon distributed via Sad Can meme, and an unofficial holiday was created when Facebook page declared Cheer Up Keanu Day on the first anniversary of Cheer Up. Yeah, so someone took this like meme of him. Oh wait, Sad Keanu, and just like ran with it, making fun of him while he was like depressed about the death of his girlfriend and his stillborn. And there was like a long period where he stopped making movies, right? Like he's like 85, 86, 88, 89, 90, like pretty much every year I was making a movie, right? 94, 95, 99, 2000, 2001. And I believe it was like 2001 he stopped kind of making movies. And then he had to do The Matrix, right? And then I think he took another break and he stopped doing movies again for quite a while. I think it was like this. Yeah, and it was like during that time where he was like super depressed. It was like during The Matrix and like the Constantine. I think like he stopped like for again if he just stopped making movies. I believe like these like he only did two movies, The Matrix and Matrix Revolutions, whatever this is. I'm not sure what this is. He might have had a small part in, and he stopped making movies for a while, and then he came back I think with Constantine. Um, super depressed. Super sad story, man. And then, but he's coming back, man. John Wick 2. I heard it's great. And so, who else? Um, Moranis, what's his name? Richard Moranis, the
Rick
guy.
Moranis.
Yeah, Rick
Ghost.
Moranis. Yeah, the guy from Ghostbusters, or the movie with the singing plant. What was that one called?
He was in that one with the. He's in a bunch of Disney ones, right? With
Yeah,
the
Honey, I
little
Shrunk the
kid.
Kids is like the
Yeah,
more
that's what it
popular one.
was.
Yeah, he stopped doing films after his wife died from cancer to be a full-time dad.
Yeah, it's boss.
It is boss, man. And people are like, why don't you do movies, man? He's like, because fucking my family is more important. And that's the kind of guy and role model that I like, right? Like he had an obvious opportunity to accelerate his career and become a great actor, right? Comedian actor. He just chose not to. He said it's not as important than raising his kids after their
Yeah, he
mother
probably
died.
had sick bank too from all those Disney movies.
Yeah, I think he lived a modest life. He didn't live like he took all that money and royalties from it for those years after, and lived like like if he wasn't a celebrity or if you didn't know he was a celebrity, you would just think he was just a normal Joe, you know. Um, yeah, like so he didn't like live in a mansion is what I'm trying to say. Like he spread that money thin, if you know what I mean,
Yeah,
which is
he
very
moved back
smart.
to Canada.
Yeah, he just had a better gauge on his life. A lot of child celebrities usually go nuts. Like I'm rooting for Justin Bieber to pull out of this. Because think about it, then like he is this like teenage kid who becomes a billionaire, right? He is like so wealthy. Everyone around him tells him how awesome he is. He has literally sells out concerts with people just loving him, um, like without any reservation. Like,
Yeah,
how can you control the psyche of a child like that? It's extremely difficult. And he's doing all right, man. I don't think he's not on crazy drugs as far as I'm concerned yet. He's he even tried like at one concert he was trying to talk to his audience about the world and like life, and he was trying to be like sentimental and like enlightened, you know. And then people were just like chanting over him like Bieber, Bieber or something like that. And he's
yeah,
he's trying to be like, hey, like listen, like I'm trying to talk to you guys. You guys aren't like listening to me. And they're like just screaming and cheering. And they can't even like give him a second to talk. And then he like leaves the stage. He's like, fuck this, right? Um, but he came back. He's like, all right, I guess I'll finish the concert. He just finishes the concert and just goes to his locker room. Like, what can that do to your psyche? Like you're like realizing, maybe there's more to life than just being a pop singer. I want to do something. I want to spread my message. And everyone's just like, whatever, dude, just be a pop singer. The fuck, Like that's harsh, man. Like everyone world stage, and I'm rooting for him. The only other person I can think of who could understand what he's going through that made it out alive is Justin Timberlake. I
yeah.
think Justin Timberlake lived a pretty privileged life, and as a celebrity at least, like very similar to Biebs, but he came out okay. He didn't. He's not an asshole, you know. He's actually well respected and loved amongst most people. So it's hard, man. And so you guys have to understand that, like, don't let these types of things guide your life decisions, okay? Because they're not going to lead to any genuine fulfillment. And there's thousands of examples of this. Like if you look at NBA stars, like you have these guys who come from like extremely poverty-driven communities, right? Like, and then all of a sudden they go from $500 a month to $500,000 a month. You think they're just going to all of a sudden become financially responsible? This is why a lot of these people are like some of the great athletes have huge debts and are actually bankrupt and have a lot of problems. You don't hear about that. You only hear about the awesome ones that make a lot of money and they're kicking ass every day. But what about the ones that didn't make it through? What about the ones that are like there's a lot of basketball players and there's not just Kobe, you know?
Yeah.
And no one hears about this stuff. But these guys, like, this is like a real problem, and there's actually like new like regulations in these sports that try to protect these players from this type of stuff. right? Like they weren't, for instance, they weren't giving them like real financial advisors, for instance. So these, like, instead of buying those Jordans, that cost like $50 or $60, which is, a lot of money if you're only making $500 a month, right? But they basically trade out the Jordans for Lamborghinis,
Yeah.
or multi-million dollar houses that they can't afford because for the first time in their life, banks are giving them loans. But then, hey, they pull a hamstring and they're out of the game, and then the hamstring injury becomes a very severe, and they can't actually ever play again. So that contract that they were to have for another year or two was going to help them pay off that house they just bought. Guess what? They can't pay for it anymore. These are superficial things to attach yourself to. Look at people like Mark Zuckerberg. He basically is giving 99% of all the money he makes to charity because he realizes who needs all this goddamn money, man. It's crazy. Bill Gates, who owns a real life museum in his home, like he has a museum with like real artifacts and shit in his house. Okay, gives up a lot of his profit too to charity and to foundations to help people around the world, right? Because he can care two shits about if Microsoft or Xbox One sales are doing well. I'm sure he cares about it at some level, but it doesn't fulfill him,
Yeah.
And this is why he created a foundation that also gets other philanthropists, billionaires, right, and millionaires to start to donate their money to projects that are beneficial to everybody. Same thing as James Cameron. You think he deep sea dives because he is paid to? No, he does it because he loves it. No, I'll talk to him right now, babe. I'm almost finished. All right, so we're wrapping up. I'm gonna tell you guys. I'm gonna tell you guys one story that I think is very valuable to the kind of lessons I'm trying to tell you right now. Okay, and then we'll end the class. I hope you guys had a good one. So the story I want to tell you, if you haven't heard it before, it's gonna be great. And if you have, just bear with me. It's important for me to tell it again. So there is this fisherman, and he's fishing every day. And as he's fishing, he catches this fish, this exotic fish. It's beautiful. And he catches a few of them, brings them home, prepares it for his family. It's enough fish and food for the family for the rest of the day. And so he spends most of his day preparing it with his wife, hanging out with his children, playing with his children during the day, and then dances with his wife at night, and then goes to sleep, wakes up the next day, and repeats the same thing. One day a businessman sees this guy. He's like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, or what are you catching? He's like, oh, this exotic fish. And he's, oh, really? What fish is it? And the fisherman catches one, shows it to him. And the businessman loses his mind. It's a beautiful fish. He's never seen this fish before. And he's like, wow, this is amazing. And he's like, well, can you eat this too? And he's like, yeah. I actually prepare this for my family. And so the fisherman sets up the thing and cuts up the fish and cooks it in front of the guy and gives him some. And the businessman is like floored. He's like, this is the most delicious fish I've ever had in my whole damn life. This is amazing. He's like, where did you learn how to do this stuff? He's like, oh, yeah, my father taught me and so forth. He's like, you should build a business. You should start a little market and sell this fish and make some money. And the fisherman's like, well, why? Why would I want to do that? So, well, once you make some money, you can start selling it, at a larger capacity. You can hire some people to help you sell it even further. You can have a larger shack to sell it in. And he's like, why would I want to do that? He's like, well, eventually you can have like a larger market. Like you can have a spot in the marketplace or something and sell it to the common folk at a higher level, sell it to more communities in your neighborhood. And so, well, why would I want to do that? What's the point of this? And he's like, well, eventually you can have your own, store where people have to go, and that's the only place, and you can sell other things there and other kinds of fish. And you can have more fishermen out there, have more boats going around the thing, and you can go not just from city to city, you can go from county to county. And he's like, well, why would I want to do that? He's like, well, eventually you'll make so much money that you can sell internationally. You can start taking this thing abroad, go state by state, go to different regions of your own country. And and basically sell it internationally and make even more money there. Have armadas of ships fishing this fish and other fishes and delicacies. And he's like, well, why would I want to do that? He's like, well, eventually you can make a merchandise. You can sell clothes, pens, shoes. You can probably even have a TV show eventually on this, like make a commercials or some sort of brand around it. And he said, well, why would I want to do that? He's like, well, listen, like eventually you make so much money and you'll have so much wealth and you have so much fame and success that, you know, you can just sit on your success. You can sit on all your assets and just retire and do all the things you love to do. Like, what are the things you like to do, for instance? And the fisherman said, well, I like to fish in the day. I like to go home and prepare food for my family. And I like to play with my kids during the day and dance with my wife at night. And the businessman says, you can do that. Do you see the moral of the story, right? This idea that we're constantly chasing success and happiness. It's somewhere else, that it's not achievable until we've done something to get it. The story of this fisherman, what it does is it tells a story that maybe you can be happy today. There's no reason to be looking for it. You know? And I hope that helps you guys understand kind of the perspective that I want you to have moving forward. And with that, guys, I really appreciate you. Appreciate all your guys' hard work. I think you guys have been kicking butt. Keep practicing. Keep doing what you want to do and what you love to do. And I assure you, you'll live much happier lives, and you'll achieve a lot of success, inevitably, just by the pure act of practice and effort. So keep it up, guys. I appreciate you. And I'll talk to you guys on the flip side. Laters.
Okay. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.